Hello, welcome to the pilot episode of a new Crystal Palace podcast. It's always be Palace. Mark, I would say this is perfect. In the pilot episode, you can hear your literal washing machine in the background.
Well, fellow Palace fan and indeed fellow member of my family, Elliot Steel, upon hearing that we were about to record the inaugural episode of a brand new pilot episode, went, "Oh, that's good," and stuck all his washing in the machine and set it going. So that, it won't be quite the quality of Frost Nixon. I don't. Mr. President, was it not? Is that thing on the final spin yet?
Do you know what? And in a way, it's, and I say this with love in my heart, it's quite beautifully Palace. It feels very Palace. The pilot episode, you can definitely hear.
I think
Elliot Steele's washing.
You could tell the ranking of a football club from the background noises in the fans. Doncaster, they've got a scrap metal yard.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, Ted! Can you get that fucking head gasket out at fucking?
Exactly. It's perfect. Right. So this is Mark Steele. I would say, I'm not blowing smoke, Mark. Needs no introduction. Icon, genuine icon. I think Mark winces at praise. I think you're like Joe Caulfield, where I'll give you praise and you're both a little bit sick on the inside.
No,
Yeah.
On the inside. I'll tell you what, though, that it does hide a little bit of egomania. When I had cancer a couple of years ago, and that's all sorted, there was a point where I thought it might not be, and it did occur to me. I thought, I wonder how well known enough you have to be for when you die to get a minute in the game. And then I thought, okay, now here's a problem.
Did you think that?
I did think that.
So funny.
Because it happens at your age, doesn't it?
Sure.
So say you're 63 and you die, then in the 63rd minute everyone claps. And I thought, do you know what? That's a good incentive to not get past 90, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because what happens if you're 96 and you're a famous Palace fan and you die, and then there's not 6 minutes of injury time?
The guy holds up the board for 5 minutes, and you're like, oh,
that's cruel, isn't it?
That's rough on Grandad. That is rough. Imagine Mark Steele passing away at the age of 89, and everyone's wondering why he's got a beaming smile in the open casket because it's off.
Yeah, but you're 1-0 up, hanging on against like Arsenal, and everyone's like, Jesus, oh shit, yeah,
oh, we've got a clap. Got a clap for Mark. Oh God. The most grudging clap ever. Mark, for what it's worth, this is how highly I regard you. I think you would have got a minute's applause. There you go. What a lovely compliment.
And you too, and quite rightly. But we're recording this now in that sort of interim period that lasts 12 weeks, less for us because we were in a European final, between seasons, and it's a strange and quite, I find it, I don't know how you are, James, quite serenely stress-free football-wise. I'm quite happy watching the cricket and the tennis, and I sort of think, oh right, I don't at any point here have that time I have all the rest of the year of thinking, oh shit, are we going to lose against Brentford?
I'm stressed already. but hang on, to the listener, I'm stressed 24/7, 365. So as soon as Mark said the word serene, I thought, unfortunately, I can't relate to this. I do know what you mean. I do. Also, Mark, I suppose we must flag that this is. You've met my two daughters. I've got two young girls. You've met them
magnificently. They were at Wembley.
Well, I was about to say, so because they're young kids and they go to Palace a lot, they've only. I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to this. If you've got kids, they've only known Crystal Palace be a brilliant Premier League club. So like as we were there, Mark, we were there. There's a lovely picture of you, me and my daughters, and because they're two young kids, they're in the picture, they're laughing and they're happy because Crystal Palace have won the FA Cup. Mark and I know you've seen this picture, we definitely have something in our eye. Because we remember administration, near liquidation. We were, Charlton away, 2005. So it all, I think part of the reason, it was that therapy, it's that primal screaming when we won, it was lots of emotion. So we must reflect that period of winning those 3 trophies. I mean, that is, we don't take for granted. And that, I mean, that was, I think about it. I think about the FA Cup genuinely every day of my life. I genuinely transport
Do
myself
you
back
think
to
you
Wembley.
refer to it every day of your life? I think
Pretty
I
much.
probably do. I think there's probably at least once a day where the conversation might be about something else. It might, what we were talking about earlier, the plants out there on the decking. And somehow I'll go, when I put that one out there, it reminded me a little bit of when there was 15 minutes to go at
Yeah,
Wembley.
yeah. Oh, this flower's blossoming. I tell you, who blossomed. Jefferson Lerma when he came on for Mark Gay.
It was very much the jasmine of that
Yeah.
of May the 17th, 2025. Exactly. Now, I think this is critical in terms of Palace, football, sport, and life, what you're saying, James, because if you're a Palace fan who has been through, they're not terrible times. I don't think we had terrible times. We've never, since I've been supporting Palace, been lower than the second division.
Sure.
There are a lot of fans of clubs who would wish to have our status even before the recent times. Of all the clubs that aren't fashionable that have had a run in the Premier League, ours is longer than Charlton's, longer than Bolton's, Stoke, Birmingham. Bigger clubs than us, you could say, that have had decent runs in the Premier League. We've lasted longer than any of their runs did. So it's been brilliant even before the last couple of years. But because we remember that time, I think that does create for a happier experience.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I
Total agreement.
can't, and I know when you get the odd fan who will get in a state because we've drawn with Newcastle or something, I still think, I can't believe we've drawn with Newcastle.
I'm with you. This is one of the reasons why we get on Mark. I'll tell you what happened with how this podcast has come to be. We play Comedians Football every Tuesday. And it's a Tuesday afternoon. It's a lovely thing. But what would happen is Mark and I would meet and we would immediately start talking about Danny Granville or, whatever it may be. And then someone will go, we need to start the football. And me and Mark would every week be like, oh, for God's sake. And then half time comes and then immediately we're into, God, remember Andy Johnson, the 020, the 0304 promotion season. And then the match ends and there's more. So the idea was sort of taking that. We're very similar. We love Palace. We're enthusiastic people, on and on and on. And we thought, hang on, let's just take this chat. And this is the podcast. It's our energy and enthusiasm. But you're right. I think it is important when someone is losing the plot over whatever it may be, because we do remember previous. I think it is important to flag, hang on, this is actually great, really.
Well, I think the amount of joy you get from your club doing well or badly, it is a sort of equation of the reality as against the expectations, isn't it? So if you're a Bromley fan at the moment, you must be so excited. You probably never thought you'd be in the league at all, and now not only in the league, but got a promotion. And talking about Elliot at the cup final, incidentally, there was I don't know, for about a minute after the cup final, he was very, very emotional. He won't thank me for saying this, but he grabbed hold of me, and the words he said were, "A little while ago, Dad, I thought we were going to lose you. Instead of that, we've won the FA Cup."
I mean, come on. Genuinely, that is...
Imagine writing that in some wanky, schmaltzy film.
No, that is... Look, I'm a wanky, schmaltzy guy. That is a beautiful thing. And I think the stories like that are why, my kids say it's the only time they've ever seen me cry, and that is that is not true. But I think things like that. That's why we were all sobbing our eyes out, though. It was tens of thousands of us were all getting things off our chest. It was.
I'm a bit more of a twat with that. I'll cry at Andy Murray winning Wimbledon.
Oh, mate, I'll cry if someone opens a bottle of lemonade. I mean, good Lord. But no, that moment with you and Elliot, that is a lovely memory for life. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, and but on top of that, I think that generally the last few years have been amazing, and I think most of us think surely at some point this comes to an end, and it sort of doesn't seem to have been. And we're so established in the Premier League now that things will have to go very, very wrong for us to be relegated. And so, for the foreseeable future, we hope it carries on. And I sort of think what I do think can happen is that a Premier League side, like a sort of Brentford, Fulham type team that goes up, and you have, and with other clubs, I've seen it come much quicker. This little point, and then the fans expect to be in the Premier League, and then they start getting a little bit antsy because you don't quite know what you're hoping for. You come 12th every year, and you go, What are you hoping for? What are you dreaming about now?" You can, because it would take quite a jump of imagination to think that a club like Palace could end up fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. It's possible, but that would be extraordinary. So you know what I mean? You don't quite know, what are we wishing for? What are we hoping for here?
I think I came to the conclusion a few years ago that for the rest of our lives, we were, if we finish 12th, great. And then you can get a bit, if you think about it too much, you can have a bit of an existential crisis because you're like, oh, is this our lot? And then you go, well, you know what? That's better than it has been. And I do wonder if that was part of the reason why we were all crying our eyes out, because we never thought we would see the likes. I never thought that.
No.
I mean, it's very easy to be transported back to that day. I would say the difference between the two, and the group that I was with in Leipzig, someone else also said this. It was different, wasn't it? So the FA Cup was crying your eyes out, the emotion. Whereas Leipzig it was more joyous. It was like, it was almost like, I've never, I mean, I know a lot of you have said the same. We had the same experience. I can safely say after that match, I've never hugged so many Spaniards in my life.
They were magnificent.
Good
I was very sad to see that they're being kicked out of their ground in Madrid.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, Rayo Vallecano,
hello.
They're very much, and I think that they announced this, really, the fans, that they are the Crystal Palace of Madrid, and they put out leaflets to their fans explaining the history of Crystal Palace, explaining the history of the Crystal Palace building, and when it the role it played in sort of showing off the imperial might of Britain in Victorian times and all that, and it burning down in the 30s, and it was glaziers who set up the club, and there was something glorious about that club, I thought.
You know what? I thought this on the night. I've always wanted a Spanish team to support, and I definitely they're the team that I will now look. I will now look out for their results.
Yeah, they were brilliant.
They were brilliant,
and the fact they all stayed behind to watch us get the trophy, and
pure class.
Yeah.
So what are they going to do ground-wise then?
I don't know. I was only just sort of reading it recently, but I don't know. I don't know whether the club should do something. Do we do something? I don't know. I feel like we owe it. We don't owe them anything, but I think it'll be a good thing to do something, I think. But they were absolutely. Everyone I know said the same. Got one mate who I've sort of been going to see years at Selhurst Park, who went, God, when they all stood behind, I thought, we wouldn't have done that for them, would we? It made me feel like I would be a better person.
They had that in their locker, didn't they? Really? I mean, the logistics would be crippling, but genuinely, if they could play at ours, we would. I feel like as a thank you for it. Like, you were so nice.
Share our ground.
We'll be done at 5 o'clock. We promise.
So that Atletico Bilbao. Where do we play? Where? How do we get to Norwood Junction? Then we have to walk from there, and somehow we have to go to Selhurst Park and play the game, and then we have to get boat back.
That's super. Why is the knackered this season? No, I might not have heard of it.
But it's good for we all go to cherry tree afterwards, and then people drink with us.
Oh, superb! I'll tell you what. I must say, while we've sat down to record, Mark is again very panicked. We were just about to press record, and Mark went, "Oh no!" And I went, "What is it?" And it was, I thought, "This is bad news." I mean, the Lacroix transfer's just gone through.
At the precise moment
Yeah.
at which we were pressing record, the quad. So I mean, again, so fitting this into our the conversation we've had so far, you sort of do have to be philosophical about it, don't you? Because again, we are a club that sits in a certain place, and therefore a there's a sort of inertia of how far you can go unless you suddenly get bought out by some
Yeah.
repressive regime or something.
Yeah.
But
The
but
dream.
Really, well, no, I've got a mate who's a Tottenham fan, and he went, "I know if it turned out Hitler was still alive and he bought Tottenham, that then, well, we got to forgive him. It was different times, wasn't it, back in the 30s?"
Champions League football, you say? Oh God! Oh, this is tricky. Oh,
Tell you
yeah.
what, he's put some money into the club. We've got a new midfielder, uh, but yeah, you sort of do.
I'm not sure about the new hand gestures for this chant, but yeah.
But you sort of have to accept that there's only there's an inertia that means it's almost inevitable that you can only have a brief moment, really, of having a team of players that are good enough to be as good as Palace were over that period, because then will be bought. They will be bought by Arsenal, like Eze was, or by Manchester City as Gay was, or by Bayern Munich as Elise was, or now by Maxence Lacroix, because Chelsea have only got 600 players, and there's an inevitability about it. I think it was extraordinary that we kept Wilf for that amount of time,
Yeah,
but that very much is an exception, isn't it?
it is. Lacroix was pure class. I mean, he could sort of do the lot. Also, I bet you're like me. When he got picked for France for the first time, it was like I was his dad. I was like
Yeah.
genuinely proud of him. Look, we've all seen him play. I mean, I'm biased. I think every player who plays for Palace is perfect, but was essentially the perfect centre half. I mean, there were also he was a real alpha leader. I mean, that thing he used to do at the end with the fans and
Yeah.
all of that. I think we will miss him. Oh, May, I've just remembered something. We'll miss him on and off the pitch. And what I've just remembered is, so Mark and I, we know some of the Palace for Life. What they do is just
Mm.
extraordinary. We're even doing a gig for them in October. You'll find it on the Always Be Comedy website, alwaysbecomedy.com. It's barely worth plugging because we're down to the last few tickets. So I've got to know some of the Palace for Life guys, and I asked them after one game. I said, "You know where this is going already." I said, "Who's the best player for you guys to deal with?" And before I even finished the question, Maxence Lacroix.
Really?
Yeah, apparently they're all great, but Lacroix is
Right.
another level, isn't that?
Yeah. But no, I
Makes
can
you like
imagine
him.
it.
You can't imagine it. I think he was leader of the, there's the Bible group.
Right.
I think Lacroix is, because there's a big Christian contingent at Palace. Gay was part of it. Obviously, he's now at Chelsea. Eze was a big part of it. He's now at Arsenal. But I think Lacroix was I believe was the leader of.
Well, now that he's left and we've lost three of our Christians, I'm going to go back to being an atheist. I mean, I did become an evangelical Christian during that period.
I had a routine. I've got a routine. I'm sorry for doing material on the podcast, but do you ever you ever thought you might be in the shower and a funny thought across your mind, and then over the next few days you try build it up? But Mark sort of said it in a much more concise, frankly better way. But what would happen? We were historically we've not always been brilliant, so it was and then one week we scored a goal, and all the Christians run off and they're doing the sign of the cross, and in the crowd we're like, oh, that's nice. It's nice that they've got that. And then we won a few games, and we're like, there might be something in this. And then we win the actual FA Cup, and we're all like, which chant should we sing next? We'll sing chant number 457. All things bright and beautiful. So I do think those boys converted quite a lot of us.
Yeah, they've done the Lord's work.
They have done the Lord's work.
I know he can go and do the Lord's work at Chelsea. I suppose it feels he's like a missionary who's done his work.
Yeah,
in this particular area. Yeah,
the missionary moves
Yeah,
further west.
good luck with them fucking heathens. So,
Yeah. So I mean, look, we're linked with a few. So I suppose actually Everton will be the first game of the Premier League season. So the back three we imagine will be JD Cambon, Chris Richards.
yes. Well, then what?
Now hang on, who's the third that comes in? Oh, Johnny Riyad.
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah.
I tell you what, for a moment there, I was like, "Oh my god, Mark Steele's going to play centre back."
This is the podcast for very old and demented people at Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Who was the bloke? Who was that manager? Malcolm Allison. No, since then, Glasner. That's him,
mate. I did it all. When I was a kid, I've got a best mate from when we were kids, and we used to go to the cinema all the time. And my dad, I was getting ready, and my dad said to my mate, "I'll tell you who's a good actor." So he's trying to relate to my friend, the movie fan. And my dad goes, "Tell you who's a good actor, that Kevin Clooney." Right? And how we laughed behind his back, and then jumped forward 30 years. And I was up in Leeds visiting my parents recently, and I apologised to both of them for that very incident. And I said, "This happens to me now on a day." You know when you call your kids each other's mate, and oh God, it comes for us all. So that in real time, me and Mark, not remembering one of the heroes of Leipzig, the Chenny Riyad story arc, if you like. I mean, no wonder he was crying at the end in Leipzig. I mean, given the injuries, I bet he never thought he would have, in his darker moments, may have thought, "What if I don't ever come back?" And so to lift a European trophy, wonderful. And I tell you what, he's a top player, isn't he?
And they were brilliant, and that was what. And there's one of the many things that we did, and as time goes on, I think we will whatever. Gladstone's got the forest and all that sort of thing, and so on. But I think that we will always remember Glasner as doing something quite extraordinary at Palace. But that business of the three centre backs, that is very much his trademark. But he did it with a different three centre. It wasn't just that he thought, right, I've got three people. He obviously had three players who were particularly
That's so true.
Classy.
Such a good point. You're
but
right.
It changed. It changed even in the FA Cup final when Mark Gay had to go off, and it became Lerma, or it's become Canvo and Riyad. There's sort of 6 or 7 players that have played in that system as part of that back three.
You're right.
And it worked all the time, didn't it?
It did. It fit that system perfectly. Whoever came in was brilliant. The Lerma thing. So I think you went to it as well. The celebration day at Selhurst, a few days after the cup final.
Right.
And where we were sat, the players had to walk past us to get onto the pitch, and then walk past us to get off the pitch. And so my kids high-fiving Eze and all of that. It was really lovely. But Lerma walked past, and I went, "Jefferson?" And he looked at me, and he's probably thinking he wants an autograph, he wants a selfie. And I looked him square in the eyes, and I just went, "Thank you so much." And it's a miracle he didn't motion for security, because the intensity with which I said it. But I thought him in that final was sort of like the unsung hero, if you like, wasn't it? To come in for Gay, to play to be spraying it about like Glenn Hoddle was.
Well, look, during those moments, at that point, 1-0, and I don't know how many of us expected that it would stay 1-0. I mean, it can't be many, can it? Because that was only about between 5-10 minutes into the second half, wasn't it? It was. Played a little bit after that.
I rewatched the highlights this week,
Right.
The FA Cup highlights. Because I know a lot of us have said this. We all believed sort of like in our core that we would win. But surely those West Ham fans against Liverpool, they must have entertained similar thoughts. And Gerrard then spanks in the...
Yeah, well, they were probably similar to us, though, weren't they? I mean, I definitely had the thought in my mind consciously. I thought when it was like 5, 10, 15 minutes from the end, I thought there's every possibility that De Bruyne has spanked one in.
Yeah.
And for the rest of our lives, you go, "Oh, we were so close.
That's
Imagine if we'd held on," and so on. And so right up until the moment, even when Dean Henderson took that goal kick, I thought, I bet there's another minute to go yet. So when the whistle blew, I was completely overwhelmed there. It wasn't like, we've won this. If it had been 2-0 at that point, might have been if Munoz's goal had stood. But I think it is interesting that why it is that Leipzig was it wasn't as tense. I think it wasn't as critical, to the history of the club. If we lost there, it wouldn't have changed things that much, but it was in a different way. It was an extraordinary, glorious night. And just the madness of it, the utter insanity of 20,000, however many people from South London being in East Germany.
And mate, it was. When people have asked me, non-Palace fans have asked me what it was like, I've been like, it was a really happy experience.
Yeah.
There was no. I mean, I've met Palace fans who have travel dramas. I met someone the other day actually who'd had to get the trains weren't running in Germany. They had to hire a car. They drove for 5 hours.
Yeah, but that all adds to it, doesn't it?
Sort of adds.
Well, we got to Cologne, all the trains. It was 2 a.m. We had to hire a donkey. Anyway, that went the wrong way. No, bloke with the seat, it said he could speak German, couldn't. Ended up in Finland. That to join the army.
This guy told me that they hired a car, but the train they were on, they got told that the trains weren't going. A German guy. This is a guy that co-owns Kronk's Brewery. Told me this story. Chris at Kronk's Brewery told me this story. He met someone. He was on a train. They found out there were no trains running. A German guy said it was a 5-hour drive. He goes, "I'll drive you to Leipzig." And so this random German guy drove these Palace fans. So, but as Chris from Kronk's Brewery told me, he's like, the 5-hour drive there is heroic, but then they put the 5-hour drive back. So they took 10 hours out of their day to drive these Crystal Palace fans that they've never met.
Waited to the end of the game.
No. This was on the day of the game. They think they're going to miss their train because the trains aren't running from wherever they are.
Right.
And this German guy goes, "I will drive you to Leipzig to get there in time for kickoff."
Good Lord.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
So that's like saying if in London to how far
Newcastle.
I was going to say maybe Leeds, but nevertheless, I will drive you to the north of England to make sure you get to the game okay, and then I've got to drive home on my own.
Right, yeah.
It's insane levels of kindness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Leipzig brought the best. He really brought the best out of everyone. Now,
but what are we going to do now then without Lacroix? I mean, I don't know. Are you sort of are you feeling that's manageable? Then we've lost one of our key players. If we don't lose any others, we're keeping Kamada. At the moment, it looks like we're keeping Wharton. There's a bit of me that thinks, okay, that could have been a lot worse, really.
Well, the Kamada contract extension is phenomenal. Frankly, I'm so happy. I think we're all happy. I hope I'm maybe not alone in saying this. That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Because he's got, I thought wherever Glasner goes, Kamada might go because they're obviously very close. So that's fantastic that he stayed. Adam Wharton is one of the best players I've ever seen play for Palace.
Yeah.
If he's not my all-time favourite, he's on my Mount Rushmore. I think the fact that he's Northern, as a Northern Palace fan, when a Northerner signs for the club, there's that extra, Danny Butterfield, similar sort of thing. So I've got an extra soft spot there. Let's go through the squad of the other proper world beaters. Ismaili Sarr is, again, one of the greatest players that's ever played for the club.
Yeah, Henderson.
Oh, my good God. Absolutely. I think you were there for this. So Comedians Football, my kids will finish school. My wife comes to pick me up, and the kids will run into the five-a-side football court, and then Andy Zaltzman, the kids would run in every week. And then one week, Andy Zaltzman goes, "Who's your favourite Palace player?" Now, obviously, the obvious ones are, in recent years, you'd go Eze, you might go Elise, you'd go Mateta, and so on. And both kids, do you want to have a guess? If you were there, you'll know this. Do you know who their favourite Palace player is?
Or was it Lerner? Because you said
Chris Richards.
Chris Richards, brilliant.
Isn't that a lovely answer?
Yeah.
That's the answer of two kids that watch a lot of Crystal Palace because you appreciate what he brings to the team. So
I suppose also there's a sort of there's a jollity about him, isn't there? And the big hair.
He's got a lovely energy, hasn't he?
Didn't you? I mean, how are you with this in the World Cup? Because we had so many players playing out there, but I tended to just, especially the first half of the World Cup. The games I made a point of watching were the ones where there were Palace players. When Kamada scored,
mate. What the one that
so bounced off him, and then similarly when America got into a tangle that was, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that was Trump's doing. That when America got into become an absolute mess following all the business of Trump and Infantino stitching up the cancellation of the red card.
Yeah.
And then Richards looked awful in that game, and I think he certainly just sort of watched one of the balls come over that led to one of the goals against him, and I really felt for
I
him.
really felt for him. I felt for the US because that they were unfairly the pantomime villains, weren't they?
Yeah,
Even though to a man they'd done nothing wrong. And I think who knocks them out? Is it the Belgium knocked them out?
Yeah, Belgium knocked out.
And I think it looked. Have I dreamt this? The manager collars Balogun,
right?
And I believe from what I've heard, now this is nonsense. I apologise if so. But doesn't the manager say something like, "I feel for you. This wasn't your fault."
Right.
Because he was sort of at the centre of this storm, and it's not like he personally got the red card rescinded, So I felt for Richards. I felt for the US
There's
players.
no way it wouldn't play on your mind.
Oh,
that it
God.
wouldn't. Well, more than play on your mind, that it wouldn't completely ruin the atmosphere. I mean, there's so much done about psychology in sport and so on with individual sports people, and in some ways even more important, you would say, in a team, because it is incredible how a whole team can suddenly be infected with the same psychological outlook. I mean, most notably England, for 2-3 minutes after Gordon scored, the England team became the same person.
That's right.
Just
that is so true.
Driven by fear and panic.
Yeah.
And I don't know, many people will debate for hundreds of years whether Tuchel made it worse or better or the same or whatever. But clearly that infected everybody. And it must have been like that with America. And I really felt for Richards,
who is one of our best players. I mean, that it's fresh in mind because I watched the highlights. But when the ball comes in for Haaland and Richards somehow angles his body and his neck to nod it off the head of Haaland, it's sensational defending. Yeah.
Incredible. No, he was incredible in that game, and he's going to be really, really important now, isn't he?
He is.
So, but then we've got someone new, haven't we?
We have, and now I must share the Bromley story, perhaps.
Yeah, I think you should.
So, look, pre-season, I've gone to the Bromley game. And by the way, while this was happening, the little voice in my head was, I can't wait to tell Mark this. So what happened was, friend of the pod, Stephen Browett, I would say, one of the best human beings I've ever met. I've said this to Mark.
Yeah.
Like one of the, I love this man more than most blood relatives, right? I would do anything. I've known this guy for many years. I've known the Browett family for many years. Love this guy. So he's very kindly got me a ticket to the Bromley game. And it's one of those freak journeys where every part of my journey from my house, every bus, every train has arrived on time. And I've ended up getting to Bromley a full hour before the rest of the party, right? And so I go into Bromley and there's a big communal dining area. I would guess 200 or 300 people. And I get there and some sort of chief executive from Bromley intercepts me and goes, "You from Palace?" And I go, "Yeah." And he takes me to my table and my spidey sense is already going, this guy thinks that I am someone that I am not. This guy doesn't know that I run the comedy nights, Always Be Comedy, and I'm a TV warm-up, and I'm Mark Steele's friend, and blah, blah, blah. What I'm not is I'm not the chairman, or I'm not on the board at Crystal Palace. And this guy is going, I've told Mark, but this guy's going to me, he's going, I tell you what, we would love to make this an annual fixture. And what I should have said was, mate, no, in my defense, I think I said something like, I'm a friend of Stephen's, but he's not, that's not gone in. And he's gone, and I tell you what, if there's any lads coming through that we could take online, we'll have a chat. And then so I've sat down, and then because I've got a full hour, a couple of people from Bromley Football Club are coming over for a chat, and so I just want to say thanks for, and I'm sort of too far into it now. So now I've just got to, I've not told a lie, but I've just sort of I'm just nodding. Oh, well, look, when you're saying things that are vague, Oh, well, look, thanks for having me. And this,
So you're a bit like the bloke, the taxi driver that ended up on the telly.
yes,
Yeah.
perfect. So
I
all,
thought he was an
mhm,
economist.
yeah. And I'd say what a great setup you've got. Anyway, then the rest of the contingent from Crystal Palace arrived, including Stephen Brower, two of his boys, absolute legends. And we're sat at the table and we're eating. And now, on two separate microphones, the chairman and owner of Bromley and this chief executive guy are both on the mic, and they're like a double act. They're really funny, I've got to say. And they're talking. Thanks for coming today, guys. Looking forward to it. We've lost a couple of players, but we made some new signings, haven't we, Mr. Chairman? We absolutely have, and we're going to anyway. And then they both turn around, and if you were there, you will back me up on this. Honest to goodness, the two of them are just talking to me directly as if I am Crystal Palace. I'm the entity of Crystal Palace. And so everyone in this room, they're all staring at me and they're looking at me going, and can we just say a big thank you, like looking at me, nodding to Crystal Palace. And I'm sat smiling. And they both look at me. And I tell you what, we'd love to make this a permanent fixture. And the Broward boys are having to cover their mouths because they're starting to giggle. And then at one point they go, can we just have a round of applause for Crystal Palace? And then this whole room full of people look at me directly. I'm sat next to Stephen Brown, one of the guys who literally saved Crystal Palace. And it's a measure of Stephen Brower and what lack of ego he's got that he's happily playing along with it. Every person gives me a round of applause for today's match. And I'm thinking, we've got a pilot episode coming up. This is perfect. But at one point they go, and I'll tell you what, if you've got any players coming through, we would love to have a chat. And then Stephen Browett, to his eternal credit, with a big smile on his face, turns around to me and whispers, "So then, what do you think, Mr. Chairman?" And sort of had to smile and nod. And anyway, they finished their shtick, and at the end of it, they go, "One more time, round of applause, please, for today's opponent, Crystal Palace." And once again, I have to sit there and nod and smile politely as this whole room full of Bromley fans and what have you give me a round of applause. So, Mark, for about 5 minutes, I was spiritually, at least, I was in charge of Crystal Palace Football Club.
I think that doesn't excuse, though, that you announced that we'd got a new £2 billion sponsorship deal with the Chinese government.
Mark said, can you imagine if you'd got talked into a deal and all the Palace fans are wondering why Dean Henderson has got a season-long loan at Bromley? And I'm like, oh God, they were just so persuasive.
I'm sorry, Steve. They seemed so nice.
So
they gave us pasties and everything. I thought it was the least we could do.
I must say, Bromley Football Club, and trust me, I experienced this firsthand across a good few hours. What such friendly people, and the setup there is amazing. And
yeah, I went and watched a game last year. They beat Crawley in part of their run that went on. How many games? A lot of games, didn't it? With I think they won them all. Certainly were unbeaten for a long time.
Andy Woodman, of course.
Yeah.
Have you ever read their book, Woody and? I was telling Jack Brout this. He'd not heard of the book. It's called Woody and Nord.
Right, no, I haven't read it.
So the two authors are Andy Woodman and Gareth Southgate, and Woody is Andy Woodman, and Nord is Gareth Southgate, because Alan Smith used to call him Dennis Norden. He thought that Gareth Southgate looked so much like a young Dennis Norden, so his nickname became Nord. This was when he was a youth player. If you've never read it, I promise you. And what it's about is that how Southgate's career, he ends up the England international, and Andy Woodman, the playing career doesn't quite happen in the way that it did for Southgate. But the thing that remains eternal is their friendship. But I mean, they could write a sequel, because Andy Woodman is, good God, it's worked out great for him now.
Yeah, and could well end up England manager.
Yeah, by the time this episode goes out. By the way, for the record, I will say this: what that World Cup solidified for me was how much I love Crystal Palace, and I'm Palace over England, and that really was rammed home this summer. The decision to not take Adam Wharton, I'm not sure there's a person on the planet who to this day is still not as upset as I am about that, and it did definitely lessen my enjoyment of the World Cup. And I didn't watch every minute of every England game, because my guy wasn't picked. And I'm of the opinion that that Tuchel performance against Argentina, I think that's the worst managerial performance I can
Yeah,
think of.
it may well be. I mean, I'm just sort of certainly at full time. This isn't just hindsight, as it was happening. I think most people watching it were going, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
Um, and and again, you can see this in any sport. This is not the place to debate, England performance, I guess, other than how it relates to Palace
Yeah.
players. And of course, we're going to say England would have been better with Wharton. Of course, we're going to say that, but he didn't go. So,
Crazy. Absolutely. It just seems crazy.
and so if he's better, I mean, the only thing I think that might have a long term effect is if that adds to the feeling that a player needs to move on from Palace to have more of a chance of getting into the international setup, which might make them more reticent to stay. I thought that we got rid of that a little bit because we had 3 or 4 players picked. Ezzy was picked for England when he was here. So was Gay, as well as Dean Henderson,
Yeah.
who,
And
and of course,
Wharton.
that and Wharton. And when that crazy 6-4 game happened, the third place game, I had every interest in that because Dean Henderson was in goal.
Do you not think, look, I know Pickford historically has been great. And of course, this is the most biased, talk about red and blue glasses and all that. Is it not time for Dean Henderson to be
Yeah, of
England's number
course it
one?
is.
It is, isn't
Of
it?
course it is. Yeah, yeah. Um, but as we are now, then just coming into August, what do we so you're already sort of I've not quite got into this stress yet. I sort of think during I enjoy half times in a game because I often think when there's a minute to go before half time and we're 1-0 up, I sort of think, oh god, I'm almost the same as if it's full time. Oh, if we can just hang on to half time and then I've got 15 minutes where even Palace can't concede a goal
Sure, yeah,
during half time.
yeah.
That would be bad to
While I'm
play.
having a brew.
Oh my God, they scored twice.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
we're all in the toilet. But and I'm a little bit like that with the summer. I've tried not to worry about it until the first game.
Well, may I just say that
But
I would be even if we'd signed Mbappe and the ghost of Maradona,
right,
I'm still it's just how I'm wired. If we do share this video, you can see I've got the hairline of someone who's permanently stressed. So
but there are two things I think that may have caused a sort of little bit more of a threat. One is that a combination of losing Lacroix and not apparently signing anybody who is obviously going to be a starting player. Am I right in
I
saying
think
that?
so because I think the Spanish is the idea that the Spanish lad plays. He can play centre back and he could.
Right,
Obviously, we hope this doesn't happen because Daniel Munoz is the second coming of Christ. But
yeah,
the idea is that he could theoretically cover for Munoz.
right. Yeah, exactly. So this isn't someone who's going to change the starting 11. And that's one thing. And then combined with that, for all that it's not the first team playing and so on, the fact that we've not done very well in the warm-up games is a combination of those two things just causing a little bit of stress.
Yeah, I mean, hang on, I've got Mark. While you were talking there, and my typing was quiet. Am I pronouncing these correctly? Oscar Mingueza. Mingueza. Mark's really got that, hasn't he?
Definitely.
I mean, I suppose I mean, from his point of view, he will be pushing for a place in the starting lineup, won't he?
Yeah, but he's not someone who's like, right, that's someone who's going to be, we've got a different starting 11 from we had last year, other than we've lost.
Oh, so I apologise. He's more of an out and out not replacement. He's more of an out and out backup to Munoz, and especially with Klein leaving. God bless him.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So then the idea is we are linked with a couple of centre backs, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, I guess so. And obviously Canvo was regular in the second half of the season. Played in Leipzig.
He's a player, isn't he? Canvo
became better and better, didn't he? I mean, he was sort of no, it was brilliant, really, because he was quite wobbly in a couple of the earlier games, and then really, and then became regular by the end.
Now, it's not like me to get carried away, but I would say the more his confidence grew, and the more of these pitch-long runs, these marauding runs he would go on, I'm sure we're all thinking the same. This lad makes Maldini look terrible.
Yeah.
I think I say that without any fear of backlash.
Yeah.
I think Maldini would write in and go, yeah, you're right.
And and of course, it's possible that there are other players in the youth sub and all that sort of in the academy, but that's maybe where the stress comes from with the warm-up games because they haven't done that.
What we were looking for, we're being diplomatic because we love all our guys. What we were probably looking for in those warm-up games was, I tell you, looks good. That insert name of up and coming player. And on what we've seen so far, there haven't been not as many players have grabbed certain games by the scruff of the neck in the way that we were perhaps hoping that they might. How's that?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And then combined with that, the two at the other end of the sort of financial scale, the two most expensive signings are sort of questionable. And I feel for them, they're obviously trying, but Johnson, bless him.
I'll say the great thing about Palace is that when he comes on, the vibe, we are rooting for that guy, aren't we? Come on, Brennan! Come on, Brennan! But I'll share this. Something that Reece, again, friend of the pod, Reece James, Tottenham fan, he told me, and he still tells me to this day, that the way to play Brennan Johnson is fox in the box, tap-ins, low crosses. There's a season at Spurs where I think he scored 19 goals in all competitions. So rather than being wide right, he was more like this striker, or certainly a forward who would ghost in and score lots of goals. And I told Mark this, it won't get as big a laugh, but off mic, I promise he went down a storm. But Reece James once heard at a Spurs match someone getting frustrated at Brennan Johnson, and apparently they went, "Fucking hell, Johnson! All you can do is score goals." Now, obviously, we want to see that, don't we? We would love to.
But fans do that.
Fans do say things like,
"Yeah, all right." I had fans say that about Izzy. Yeah, I mean, he might have scored 9 goals in the last 6 games, but he disappears for long periods.
Yeah, he might have scored the most important goal in the club's history, but I mean, So yeah, so look, we've got fingers and toes crossed. But you know what, Strand Larsen, I think we've all watched a lot of football. I think he's top quality,
Is he? I
mean, that goal in the Europa League. I mean, that's a
that was
proper
terrific.
player's
That
goal,
was
isn't
brilliant. I know that I was watching the England-Norway game in the World Cup, and there were quite a lot of Palace fans there. And when Haaland went off and Strand Larsen came on, we did think, oh. I don't think if I was Norwegian, I'd be delighted with that.
I'm a member of the Penge branch of the Jorgen Strand Larsen fan club. So even I'm saying this. Have you ever seen a more blatantly he's going to miss this penalty ever? So he's right. It was the most telegraphed. I think you and I would have saved it. He runs up to the ball. I can't remember who Norway were playing. Runs up to the ball. He may as well have pointed where he's going to take it, and of course the keeper saves it. I will share this though. There was a Palace match. I know we probably should wrap up here.
Yeah.
The thing with me and Mark, we're hitting 50 minutes. I think you and I we're always going to be fine for time. Couple of chatters. But there was a Palace match, and after a game, Jorgen Strand Larsen walked past my wife, and he's a good-looking, strapping young man. And he walked past my wife and he went, "Hello," and our marriage hasn't been the same since. And I'm on a Palace WhatsApp group, and "hello" has become quite the catchline.
Well, bless him. Well, at least he's doing well on that front. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we are running out of time on our inaugural podcast. So many other things to talk about. I do want to talk about the women's team, which has got an exciting, I hope, season ahead. Probably more chance of doing well than last time we were in the Premier League.
Yeah, they made some signings, haven't they?
Yeah, indeed, particularly this week. And it may well be that Beth, who's been signed by the women's team, if things go a bit awry, could well be playing in the men's team as well.
But absolutely, I would sign her up.
And then so many other things to talk about. There's the new stand, which is, we both live near the ground, and that I find that quite exciting. That you go down there and there's all diggers and things.
I think you're more excited about that new stand than anyone on the Palace board. Mark is obsessed in the best way possible. He cannot
10 years.
He cannot wait for it. Amy Everett, I think she's Northern, but my kids, they do football training 3 times a week.
Right.
But Amy Everett teaches football. She takes football classes at the primary school that my kids go to. But my kids do morning training. I think Amy does after school. But my kids met Amy, and my kids have met pretty much, certainly most of the Palace squad, and they've never been starstruck, right? So I've got to say, the way Adam Morton is with the kid, he's so lovely, asking them how school's going, and they chat away with the likes of Wharton. Oh, the washer's finished. That is perfect. As the episode,
the sign.
That's perfect.
The sign of when the podcast has to end.
We've got to do this every episode.
When the final spins in it.
They met Amy Everett. It's the first time I've seen them in some time.
Wow.
Yeah, because I guess that she's living their dream, because they play lots of football, they watch lots of football, but Amy was great. Sort of did their talking for them, she's.
We should publicly pledge, James, to go and see a game as soon as we can. WSL. I've been to a few of them. When they've been down at the Palace, and there's a brilliant atmosphere there.
Right, I can give there's an always be comedy email. I mean, it's not in a dream world we'd already have a podcast email. If you use the team at alwaysbecomedy.com, it's not ideal, I know. The team at alwaysbe, it's so funny that it's silent, the washing machine has literally finished. The team at alwaysbecomedy.com, and I part of my homework is to set up a designated email address for Mark and myself. But thanks very much to Mark. Thanks to Elliot, because that game was a good runner. Did the a comedian, on a TV record, you always need a runner, don't you?
Yeah.
And that did give us a good run.
And then just left, put in the washing, and then just went. Good luck with podcast, boys. Go on.
Superb. What's the dream? We make this a weekly thing?
I think a weekly thing. I think there's no anything to talk about, and we can't leave it more than a week. That would be immoral.
No, I'm going to let the side down. I'm going on. I feel my own pre-season tour. I'm going on holiday. So just what I would say is, please bear with us. This is my fault. I apologize. So the first few will be done online. So I would say strap in. It might be a choppy start to the season, but once I'm back in Blighty, we'll be back in Mark's kitchen, ideally with the washing machine on full blast. So I apologise that you won't hear the washing machine. I might put it on wherever I'm on holiday. I'm just going to put it on just for old time's sake.
There's going to be a little competition every week. Guess the appliance.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
This week there's a welding. Unit at the back.
Sounds like a drill. It is a drill. Well done. You get free tickets. Right. Look. Thank you. Thanks to Mark. And here we go. Up the Palace. See you soon. Cheers, guys.